Hello and welcome back to Hoi 4, Equestria War, the realm of Kiria under Rainshine. And in today's episode, we've got a bit of an issue to worry about. Okay, cool. We have the crisis of bread and rice, our exploding population, and the movement of Kirin. Needed a sip of water. Away from the subsistence farming filling the countryside and into our reopening cities has created a dire crisis in our food supply. Cities are emptying their granaries much faster than anticipated, and old farming techniques are insufficient in providing enough food to keep the cities from starving. We must find a solution to this crisis and encourage our fellow Kirin to give everything they can afford to see us through this next dreadful winter. Technological imports. If we are to advance as a nation, we cannot afford to waste time rediscovering technologies that have long since been perfected in foreign lands. By asking the returning Kirin illiterati for help in supplying the nation with copies and examples of state-of-the-art technology, we can reverse engineer our designs and rapidly scale up our industrial capacities in a very short time frame. Yes, that makes sense to me. Let's do it. Wait a couple days. I can go ahead and do this. Sharing what little we have. It had started with a single cart rumbling down the dirt road to Fragrance. That cart pulled by an elder Kirin who had seen dozens of seasons come and go, had been loaded to the brim with as much wheat as it could hold, and when he arrived in famine-stricken Fragrance, he merely unhitched himself from the cart and wandered off, only returning to the cart once it was empty to take it back to his farm. Day in and day out, the elder Kirin would make the trip to the city, giving away his one cart full of wheat to any Kirin who needed it. He became a hero to the local Kirin, and when his cart broke a wheel on the journey into town, the smith made him a new one for free as a sign of thanks. It wasn't long before the story of this humble farmer spread throughout the countryside. Shortly after, where before there was one cart, soon there were 2, then 5, then 10. More and more farmers gathered up everything they could spare and began making the journey to Fragrance, delivering it to Kirin in need for free. Within a month, the same started happening in other hungry cities in the realm. The poor peasant farmers, with barely enough land to feed their families, started to solve a crisis that the NAKP and the large consortium's farms could not, and in doing so began to knit their communities together. With food filling bellies once again, the tempers began to cool, and Kirin started seeing each other as friends once more, not as rival hungry mouths that would take their next meal away. Even Matriarch Superior Rainshine herself spoke to the nation of this movement, and issuing an imperial decree to establish a National Farmers' Day as a holiday in thanks to the peasant farmers for saving the nation from famine by sharing what little they had. As for the farmer who started this movement, he simply returned to his farm without giving any Kirin his name, unwilling to put in the national spotlight as a hero. In his own words to one reporter that managed to track down his homestead, "I just did what I thought was right. Kirin was hungry and I had something to spare. Simple as that." Sometimes it's everyday heroes who save the day, not the big names in the government. That's really, really beautiful. Verdant Manufactories. The city of Verdant is proving to be a fertile ground for the growth of modernization in the realm. With an abundance of labor and room to expand, the working class in Verdant is growing faster than perhaps anywhere else in Kiria. But with all of this new labor comes the spread of new and radical ideas, and the workers that build factories today may get ideas about taking them back tomorrow. I mean, to be fair to them, they did just almost starve to death because of leaving their countrysides. So, kind of understandable, to be honest. Like, I kind of get why they might be feeling that way right now. You know, that's kind of understandable at the moment. Yeah, but I'm sure it's fine. Verdant in bloom. There's another issue I want to talk to you about. Autumn Blaze looked up from her tea at Ficklecurrent, a small frown curving her lips as she met Ficklecurrent's eyes. The business Kieran always wore a suit, and today was no different. Even the heat outdoors, it made him look intelligent and sharp, but also marked him as an outsider. Some Kieran who had lived in the realm during the silence, instead thriving in Griffonia until the time was right to return to his home. To the home of his grandparents. Every time he said something, Autumn had to remind herself that the two of them might as well be different species. The only thing they had in common was their race, and their hopes for bringing the realm out of the dark century of the silence. Though even in that they differed. These rising fire heretics. They're growing ever more powerful, Verdant Current continued, unaware of the simple indifference from Autumn's frown. Communalists who think that the silence was a beneficial realignment of Kieran's society, that our treasured way of fires failed us. They've even started attracting Marxist-Stalinists to their numbers. You want these ours? A violent revolutionary ideology that thrives in toppling monarchy and castering the beneficial ventures of capitalism. In some opinions, yes, Autumn demurred, but I believe in the grand gallop forward, and we can incorporate every Kieran's ideas into rebuilding our nation. Cooperation makes us stronger, and division makes us weaker. They must be stopped, and they must be crushed now before it is too late, Current urged her. Use the power of your position to officially denounce and disperse the filthy Corford society. Do it now before their heresy grows, and our matriarch appears the next monarch to be overthrown. I believe in the great gallop onward. How can we gallop if we leave Kieran behind? Or the risk of the rising fire heretics joining forces of Marxists is too great. It is. It most certainly is. I will not put a single bit of their ideology in my growth chart. Not a single bit. Industria is the breadbasket. The farmland between the branches of the great Malafouve River is the most fertile in the land. With the benefits of modern farming techniques and tools, it alone could produce even enough food to feed every Kieran in the nation, 3 square meals a day. Investment in the breadbasket will strengthen the nation as a whole for years to come, and ensure that no Kieran goes hungry ever again. Yay! Stupid pirates. Well, actually, that's a 60, which means it would be a better place to build. But I'm really worried that that's going to be one of the places to rebel, just because, well, it feels like it is. Up here, they're in the area that's like the, oh, well, you know, where we might just not be okay with staying here. So they make me nervous, and I don't know if I can trust them. It's fine. It's fine. The Trans-Kiro Railway. If Kiria is to become united and modern, then a way of bringing peace and goods from one side of the nation to the other is essential. While the Great Malaflouve has long served as crucial highway for our realm, it cannot reach everywhere. The construction of modern and standardized railways throughout the realm will bring our people together like never before. Beautiful. Now that's what we need. To bring our people together like never before. Oh, we're 2 years now. No celebration for 2 years, but oh well, whatever. Okay, so now we're back to Rising Sun. Rising Sun's been getting a lot of these. Some of these, but okay. Igniting a spark. The wonders of modern technology are truly a blessing from Concord. Where once we've roamed from town to town and village to village by hoof, The advent of modern transportation in the form of the railroad has greatly aided us in spreading the belief of the rising fire to the Kirin of the realm. We can visit several towns in a day, whereas before we could only visit one town in several days, stopping at inns or farms along the road and speaking to only a hoofful of Kirin before moving on. It's such an efficient vector for processation as a railroad. The rising fire is spreading faster than ever, and more Kirin is more and more towns are finding the truth in our teachings. This is truly one of the greatest boons our movement has ever had, and proves that modernization and the rising fire are made for each other. When night falls and the J-track laying has ceased, miniature shanty towns spring up at the end of the line. They are populated by an entire new class of Kirin, who are more than eager to embrace the rising fire. On any given day, I speak to track layers, coal miners, mechanics, and even prostitutes who populate these transcendent railside camps. Many are pleased to have a job free of the dull monotony of farming and fishing, but they also feel inadequately rewarded for the services they provide by the foreign business Kirin who employ them. The work they do is backbreaking and dangerous, and yet they barely even make more than farmers and fishers do for their labors. The way of fire does not care for them, and would rather that they not exist at all, as the traditionalist mystics and priests are wary of the new developments happening in the realm. But the rising fire supports them. They provide important labor for their communities, and in the eyes of Concord, they are favored by her divine blessing. Under our teachings guidance, they are helping to build communities that will appreciate their work and reward them amply. We will do what the leaders of the realm will not do: acknowledge them and recognize their troubles, and treat them as equals, such as Concord's will, and as such is my purpose on this earth. As her faithful servant, I will not rest until her will is fully realized. Nice. Geological surveys. Kiria is full of untapped potential when it comes to our resources. What we produce today only scratches the surface of the realm's potential. We know that our hills are full of natural resources that have yet to be properly exploited by industrial excavation operations. All we have to do is fund geological surveys to find the best deposits and encourage excavation companies to dig them up. Yes, makes sense to me. I'd say things are going quite well. Land repossessions. Much of the realm's land falls into one or two categories: unpopulated bastions of nature or sprawling subsistence farms. By concentrating our efforts on reorganizing our farmland and making inroads into untapped nature reserves, we can greatly expand the amount of available land we have for building projects, allowing us to increase the density of our growing industrial base. Sounds good to me. Sure. Don't know why you want peace stuff, but you can have it. What's going on in Graphonia? Seems like things are pretty normal. Ooh, they went harmonic. That's slightly strange. They go communist. That's slightly strange. But overall, seems like things are pretty much just what you'd expect for the most part. Alright. They're doing a thing. Yeah, so far things just seem to be as you'd expect. Interesting. For the most part. rural-urban migration. When Brown Burra had first moved to Fragrance from abroad, just after silence was lifted, her heart had gone out to poor city Kirin that she found there. Destitute, gutted by the silence, they scratched a living out wherever they could and struggled to earn their daily rice. At least the Kirin in the country could feed themselves, she mused bitterly, as she lowered the morning's typeset into her cantankerous little printing press. She had quite scathing pamphlet to print today, and would need to take the press apart and hide it before she hit the streets to distribute. In the past month, the Plenum's latest decrees about agrarian consolidation had taken a hard toll on Fragrance. Every day, caravans of 4 farmers whose land had been bought out by the state wandered into Fragrance, having been promised jobs, homes, and all the amenities of modern city. What they found was increasingly overcrowded and dirty slums, still struggling to recover, the same as everywhere else. Brown Burra had interviewed Kirin across the city in the past week, and the verdict was clear. Perhaps modernizing the countryside was important, but Fragrance was buckling under the strain of its new arrivals. Outside her window, she could hear an argument about some merchant outrageous prices. Rents were rising, the cost of food was not far behind. Her article was an open, anonymous letter to the AKP and to Mayor Cherry Blossom, demanding that they take immediate action to feed, clothe, and help the masses streaming into the city. If measures were not announced, her letter called for a protest blocking the city's wharves for an afternoon. With how busy the reopened port was getting, even just an afternoon's disruption would surely get the attention Fragrance masses sorely needed. Whether any Kirin would actually show up, well, she had to be hopeful that the city's unfortunate would be willing to stand up for themselves. The shouts outside Burro's window grew louder, and she could hear a mother pleading that she had fillies to feed. The sound of the press whirling to life drowned her out. They are emptying the countryside faster than the cities can handle. Northern industry. Fragrance and Raspity were 2 important bastions of modernization before the silence, and both cities resisted its imposition to various extents, planting the seeds for future modernization efforts. Now they will be some of the first cities to benefit from the resurgence of modernization and are already constructing massive industrial complexes to capitalize on the change. Yes. It is the right thing to do. That's expected. You guys just doing your thing as normal. That's all doing. Republic of Terran declares independence. You guys are doing your 4-way. Well, and they're just beating up on them. Oh, hey, it's back to Autumn Blaze. Autumn Blaze is basically the one I'm going for. I don't know if it's, like, I'm going for the harmonic Autumn Blaze rain shine path, so, yeah. I left Vermilion a few weeks ago to go visit the new steelworks that have been erected in Fragrance and Raspity, argued for and funded in large part by the Fickle Current, and his like-minded business partners. I've traveled a little bit around the realm as part of the job, and even a little bit before that, when the silence still had our people locked in its grasp. But I've never been this far north. I thought all of our realm was like Vermilion or Massacot, either withering cities dwindling as they decayed, or a small village full of Huron trying to scratch out simple lives with no support or assistance from the government. But Fragrance and Raspity are nothing like that. They are still splendid cities, places that tried so very hard to resist the economic societal collapse of the silence, and managed to save some of our culture and way of life from before the silence brought everything to a standstill. I don't know how much better I could describe it. The Kirin in these cities still have life and color in them, a sense of optimism that tomorrow is going to be a better day. That's something I share with them, and it made me so happy to see it during my travel. Oh shoot, I'm getting off topic, or am I? I don't know. Anyways, the steelwork that Fickle Current's clique funded are an amazing sight to behold. These aren't just workshops where blacksmiths forge steel and work their craft. This is something else entirely, a modern revolution that was smothered in Kiria a century ago, but was refined and perfected by the Griffins of Griffonia and the ponies of Equestria. These are entire factories filled with heavy machinery powered by electricity, another invention from over the seas. It makes me realize just how small my world was growing up in the silence, and guided along by workers who pull levers, hit buttons, and somehow wrangle these machines into doing all the work for them. And the results can't even be compared to the work of a smithy and guilds. These factories can produce in a day what entire guilds of talented blacksmiths can produce in a year. Sure, it loses some of that personal touch, but when we're trying to drag our entire nation into the modern era after centuries of sitting on our hooves, this industrialization is practically a blessing sent by Concord herself. Current and his friends might be a little too cynical and greedy for my taste, but the inventions they're bringing in from overseas and the capital they are investing in setting up our industry more than makes up for it. I can only hope that some of the fruits of their labor can make it way down to the ponies working in the steel mills. Those I talked to said they work 10 or 12 hours a day in scorching heat, with only a few breaks throughout the day. But it pays better than farming, so I've been told. And besides, we Kieran like the heat anyway. That's true! You know, that's actually true. I wonder if it's not as bad factory working for Kieran in compared to people, because how connected they are to fire. If it actually makes it where it's not as tough as a job when it was very tough for early industrialization in our world, maybe it would actually be less tough for them because of the heat and connection to heat and sort of heat resistance they have. That's so interesting. Oh, I love that. That's so interesting. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's a rough start for many of these workers, but I feel that given enough time and hard work, this will all pay off for them like it will for the rest of us. We just have to believe in the future we're all building together. I believe in that future, in the Matriarch Superior and Concord's blessing. To some extent, I believe in Fickle Current and his compatriots, too. We just have to work together to make the best use of the blessings Kiria has given. We can shape our future into anything we want it to be, and I'm going to do everything I can to help make it happen. Yeah. Let's reply to more letters. The Autumnal Premiership. Premier Autumnblaze is a young Kieran left in charge of the greatest undertaking in Kieran history, with consequences that will shape our history for decades to come. It's a lot of responsibility for one man to shoulder, but she is determined to shoulder it, and Matriarch Superior Rainshine has entrusted in her almost unlimited authority to choose the path of the nation's modernization. Yeah, and she's already done a great job at it, so, you know, good on her. Tea time with the Divine. Autumnblaze took another sip from her tea, watching as Rainshine did the same across from her. It was funny how life was sometimes. Here she was, sharing tea with the Matriarch Superior of Kiria, making idle conversation as friends. She knew that Kieran, sitting across from her, was a divine being in which she should show respect and devotion, but she had grown so comfortable in the Matriarch's presence that she saw her as a friend she could speak freely with, like any other Kieran. Of course, given the situation of Kiria, the world of politics could not be escaped forever. Fickle Current approached me with a request today, the Matriarch began. He's growing concerned with a movement that calls themselves the Insurgentiaries. Have you heard of them? They have a substantial base among the peasant farmers, and they give them an outlet to channel their frustration against modernization into. The farmers fear losing their land for infrastructure and urban projects, and instead believe in land justice, collective ownership of the land, or resurgence of religion in our way of life. They have even started attacking and damaging new projects that are being constructed and the Kieran building them. I heard about the attack on the dam near Chrysamon and the granary fire at Cornsilk, Autumn said, but truth be told, I have so much going on that I haven't been able to give it proper attention. I think I read that they're loosely affiliated with the Rising Fire, at the very least. They're certainly friendly enough with that sect of our religion. If they're being organized, that poses a big problem for us. Even still, I'm sympathetic to their plight, Rainshine said, as she added. I spent 60 years of my life isolated in Vermilion, oblivious to the suffering of my subjects, and now they are being thrust into a brave new world just as quickly as I have. They are scared and confused, and I don't want them to be hurt because they are afraid. After a moment's pause, she pursed her lip and looked away. I want you to learn more about the situation and recommend a course of action, Premier. Find me a solution that is best for every kin, and I will make it so. Of course, Matriarch. The Incredulous Movement. Investigate the incidents. Okay, where do I do that? Has completed decision. Okay. Okay, there it is. So I need political power and fast, which I can get easily through those two. So I should still be fine. And I'm not going to care about those for now. Sorry. Investigate the incendiaries. Matriarch Superior Rainshine wants us to investigate the incendiaries before we decide how to deal with them. A report on their activities in the realm will be compiled and delivered to the Imperial Premier, so she can bring forth a recommendation to Rainshine. The incendiaries are a group of Kieran peasants and farmers who are loosely affiliated with the Rising Fire heresy of our religion, and they have decided to express their frustration and dissolution with the grand gallop onward by striking out at our modernization projects. They will be dealt with one way or another, lest their movements spiral out of control and further hamper our efforts to modernize our countryside. Well, first we're going to investigate those guys. Last of bolster will increase. Okay. I don't care about a temporary higher stability. Alright. The Charter of Rights. As we move away from the society of our past to the society of a modern age, we have the opportunity to learn from the struggles of other nations. Industrialization was often brutal on laborers that fueled it, and the protection for those workers only came after they were forced to endure unimaginable suffering. Let us guarantee protection for our workers so they do not have to needlessly suffer as well. Yes, I agree. It should be done. I'm going to go down to you next. Now we're going back to Fickle Current, but we'll do that. We'll go back to Fickle Current and see what he thinks of all this in the next episode. We'll also do this in the next episode. So, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And, as always, peace.